Hi and welcome to another video by Jim the Car Guy. Today we have a very easy job we're going to be doing. We have a 2001 Toyota Corolla. We're going to be changing the front brake pads, the brake rotors, and we're also going to change the mounting hardware kit. The hardware kit is what holds the brake pads into the mounting bracket itself, so that way everything slides correctly. So alright, let's get up there. I'll show you what you're going to need and we're going to proceed. Come on, let's take a walk. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come up underneath here with the pry bar, and we're going to put the little pry bar or screwdriver back behind the rotor so it comes out right over here, and then we're going to keep constant pressure on it until we push that piston all the way back into the bore. And then we want to make sure that these slide pins here slide nice and freely, because what happens frequently is these slide pins right here become rusted and they stay applied, causing the brake pads to wear down prematurely. So we're going to make sure that that slides, and the way you do that is you just, after you push that piston back in, you just slide this back and forth, and if this caliper slides freely, then you know that these slide pins are okay. We are going to lubricate these, just so you know, but we want to make sure that they're not rusted or frozen in place, because if they were, at that point we'd need to change this caliper and the mounting bracket that go along with it. Alright, but it's not the problem here. Alright, now the next thing we're going to do is, after we get to this point, we're going to come up underneath here, and there's a bolt right here. I'm going to bring it a little closer. We're going to take out those two bolts right there. Those bolts are actually what holds the caliper into the mounting bracket. You just put it on here, and it's counterclockwise, of course, to take it off. I probably said this a million times, but don't lose these bolts, because you are going to need to reuse these. And we're going to take the caliper, and we're just going to bring it off to the side for now. We're not going to do anything with it right now. We're just going to put this off to the side and just hang it up with that piece of wire that we talked about. We'll just hang this out of the way, just like this, so that's not where we're working. Alright, next thing we're going to do is, well, these, as you can see, are dead. They're right down practically to the metal here. Okay, next thing we're going to do now is we're going to take out that bolt in the back right there. That's a 17, and this is a 17 right here. We're going to take these bolts out. Okay, now we're going to put this off to the side right now, and we will come back to this, because what we're going to do is we're going to change this hardware right in here, but we're going to come back to that shortly. Alright, our rotor just comes off, and as you can see, this rotor is pretty much dead. You can see where it was out of round, so we are going to change these rotors. We're not going to bother resurfacing them. There's too much rust on there. Next thing we're going to do is right inside here. This actually has a lot of rust inside here. We need to clean this off. Now there's different ways you can do it. One, you can get in here with a scraper like this and clean it off. You can get in here with sandpaper and clean it off, or you can use a disc like this and clean it off like that. That's the way I'm going to do it, so I'm going to clean this all off. Once it's clean, I'll come back and then we'll put this job back together. So let me clean it up and we'll come right back. We'll spray off the rotor, clean off all that oil on here. You don't have to get everything off, but you want to get as much off as you possibly can. Okay. Now we're going to put our rotor back on the car where it belongs, and that nut that we talked about before, remember we talked about that nut that I said didn't belong to the car? You see how this rotor moves around? It's a little difficult to work when you try to put everything back together while it's moving. So what I did is I just put a nut on here, screw this on, and that's it. It pretty much holds it. so it doesn't move at all, and you can actually do some work without having to worry about it slipping out of the way. All right, so now we're going to change the hardware. Remember we talked about this mounting hardware? You just pull these clips here like that, and they come right off. We're not going to use these again. We just take them like this, and we throw them away. And if there's any rusting taking place inside here, you use a file like this to clean it up, or sandpaper or whatever. That's not the case here. This is actually fairly clean, so we don't have to worry about anything with that. All right, what I always do is before I put it back together, I put a little bit of silicone here, just to keep this from rusting. And then we take the clip, the mounting hardware, just push it on, just like that, and that's how it goes. Same thing over here. You just push it on here, like that, just like it's supposed to be, like that. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take out these slide pins right here. We're going to keep them in the same location that they come out of, because one of them...
Hey, what's up, boss?
1 second, be right there.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, so after you pull these slide pins, you want to keep them in the same location that that they're coming out of. You don't want to mix them up, because one of them has a little rubber O-ring on it, and the other one does not. So we're going to take it out like this. This is the one that's got the rubber O-ring. We're going to clean it all off. Now this rag has got brake cleaner on it, just so you know, like this. And then we're going to put a little bit of the synthetic brake grease on here, just a little bit. We don't want to go overboard with it. You just want to have a little bit on there, and you put it back inside here. You make sure that rubber boot pops all the way back up where it belongs. Okay, all the way up as far as it goes. And now you can see it slides nice and freely. Okay, going to do the exact same thing on this one. We're going to take it out. We're going to clean this one off with a little more brake cleaner. Okay, wipe it off. I'm going to put a little bit of this synthetic grease on here again, just like this. And now we'll take that and we'll make sure it pushes back in all the way. And make sure that that boot pops up to the top and it slides nice and freely also. Now, any place that the brake pad is going to touch, you want to put brake grease on it like this. Doesn't have to be a lot, just a little bit. Just like that. Okay. Now what I always do, before I put this back in the car, I'll put the brake pad in here like this, push it in, like that. And we'll do the same thing on this side here. Okay, so now our brake pads are in where they belong. We're going to put it over the top of the rotor, and then squeeze the brake pads closed. And we're going to catch both of the bolts in the back, those 17 millimeters that we previously took out. You want to catch them both in there before you tighten it up with the ratchet. Squeeze your pads together. We're going to tighten up these mounting bolts. Now there is torque specs on this. I'm going to look them up and I'm going to torque them in place. But for now, we're just going to leave it the way it is. I'm going to go in the back and I'll find those torque specs and torque them in. So now we have these bolts that are torqued. The bolts in the back of the caliper mounting bracket are torqued in place. Now we're going to take our caliper, let it disconnect it. Now you remember before I came in here before with that pry bar and I pushed that piston back in. Now every place that the rotor, that the brake pad touches, you want to put a little bit of grease on here just like that. And in the back over here, whatever touches up against the brake pad, just a little bit of grease, right? Next thing we're going to do now is we're going to put our caliper over the top like this. And if you need to, you can rotate these little slide pins to accommodate the brake bolts, the bolts for the caliper. Now we're going to catch them both in here by hand first. And if you're trying to screw this bolt in and it doesn't line up, that's when you'll need to rotate that piece there and make sure it's in the slot where it belongs. All right, now we'll snub these in. Okay, then we can take this off. All right, let me bring you in there. I'm going to show you everything that we did. And as far as this now, this job is finished. But let me just explain to you what's going on here. Okay. Okay, so now we cleaned up the mounting hub right here where the rotor is going onto. We made sure it's clean. We put our new rotor on. We cleaned this off with brake cleaner, both the front and the back. We mounted our new hardware kit in here. We lubricated our slide pins here and here to make sure they slide. We put our new hardware kit on the bottom here as well. We lubricated every place that the brake pad is going to touch in here, as well as here and here. And then we made sure that these little pieces here are lined up and not touching crooked onto there. See how that's located there? Same thing on this one over here, same way. And we tightened up the bolt on the mounting bracket on the slide pin and to the caliper, and that's it, we're all done. Okay, so that's it. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to get up in the car, you're going to pump the brake pedal 4 or 5 times to bring that pedal up a little bit higher so it's right up on top. Because the initial time you first get in the car and step on the brake, that brake pedal is going to go right to the floor. So make sure you pump that pedal up before you take it out and drive it. That pushes the piston back out so it touches into the brake pad and it'll bring you a nice firm pedal. As always, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.